$50 if you yell at the top of your lungs, Matt Vaughan's here.
I don't think that's worth the $50. That'd be so embarrassing. You'd be like, what the hell is wrong with that guy?
I'd pay you $50 not to do it. Sitting down in this 5-5 rock Aria game, I was nervous but also pretty excited to play this game. I've actually played this big or even a little bit bigger, playing 5-10 and 5-10-20 in some online PLO games. Those were fairly private though, and obviously online is just a different beast. Meanwhile, in live poker, you're throwing the chips in, there's 1K chips in your stack, and things can get hectic. As you can see, I'm not in any of my normal stomping grounds. As I was saying, we are here to play 5-5 rock game at Aria. First time playing this game, ever. Just trying to win. Oh, I'm here with some friends. I'm not a PLO expert, and I don't want you guys to take anything I say in this video as gospel or even particularly good strategy advice. I'm mostly just going to be running through what I thought was good at the time, and maybe a couple of thoughts after the fact. In this hand, I'm down a little bit, sitting on $850 from a 1K buy-in. In this game, the blinds are 5-5, but there's a rock in play which is worth $10. This quote rock goes into play every single hand and is effectively a third blind or sort of like a straddle that goes wherever it is in somebody's stack. So if somebody's in the hijack and has won the rock from the previous hand, they will put it out in front of them and it acts as $10 and action proceeds to the left of them. This leads to some interesting dynamics, and it's kind of a very different game than with a set blind structure like you're used to playing. In this hand, the rock is in early position, so it's not that different from a normal straddle game. Middle position limps, and I'm on the button with 8-8-7-6 double suited. And my buddy Eugene in the small blind pots it to 155. It folds around to me, and I make the call. The flop comes something pretty bad for us. I'm going to go with something like 8-5 deuce rainbow, and Eugene just pots it, and we have a very easy fold here. We just can't really connect with this board, and even though we'd have to continue with virtually any piece most of the time, on this one when he pots it, we just get away. In this next hand, 775 in the stack, the rock is in middle position. The hijack makes it blind 30, which is something he's going to keep doing, although I think this might be the only hand where he goes in blind. I'm in the cutoff with king 7-4 with clubs, and I make it 100. Typically, this isn't even that great of a hand to 3-bet with, particularly with a lot of players behind, but since he's blind and in for 30, it's kind of like a double straddle in this instance, although it's not live if I were to just call it a 30. The big blind and the hijack call for 100, and the flop comes 7 deuce deuce rainbow. They both check to me, and I c-bet for 100. I'm frankly not sure what the best size is here, but I think something like this is pretty good, seeing as we're not particularly deep with the big blind. The big blind is in fact the only caller, and we go heads up to a turn, which is the 9 of spades, a second spade on board. He checks, and I'm able to go all in for, I'm guessing, what amounts to about $350 or $400 in his stack, and he just folds. In this hand, I now have 1145 in the stack, and somehow all of the money gets in when a guy who was just stacked instantly rebuys and finds a re-raise. I'm not sure on the absolute exact action, but there's basically a raise. I'm a caller with king 4-3-1 suit, and this guy now 3-bets. Given that this is a pretty big squeeze spot and he literally got stacked on his absolute first hand sitting down, I just don't really believe he's got it. There's at least one call, maybe two, and I back raise jam with my hand. I think we go 3 or 4 ways in here, and the board rolls out 8-5-3, jack 3 with everybody all in. We're up against ace 9-6 from the player who I thought couldn't have aces. We're also up against ace king queen 10, another reasonable hand, and then somehow jack 8-5-4, which can't believe how ridiculously unlucky he got. Well, I have nothing to say about that one. 4.2K in the stack now, and I am already up over $3,000. A pretty big win in terms of what I'm used to experiencing. However, I'm definitely not about to leave. It's only been an hour or two, and I'm excited to keep playing a deeper stack game. There are a couple of limps, and a very active player makes it 55 in the hijack. I'm in the cutoff with king, queen, jack, jack with suited hearts, and I call. There's one call from the buy-in, and the big blind now makes it 305. You can see that a game like this can get pretty ridiculous with the rock in play and with pot limit and people just kind of ripping it in, 4 cards in play. There's always just craziness that can go down. The early position, rock position player calls. I call as well, and the flop comes 7-6 deuce with 2 hearts. We have a flush draw here and a small overpair, so when the big blind checks and the rock jams a pretty small stack in there, I just decide to repot it and not really think too hard about it. We end up going heads up and choose to run it twice. The first board goes the deuce of diamonds and the 8 of hearts, which is a paired board, but I do have a flush, and he announces he has a straight. The second board is the jack of clubs, giving me a set, and a queen of clubs on the river, adding a meaningless top pair. And, well, set's going to be good. I actually managed to scoop it versus ace 10, 9, 8, a wrap, and a weaker flush draw, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty insane little result. In this next hand, 5K in the stack, there's an open to 25, and I 3-bet with king, king, queen, deuce to 85. This hand is probably not a 3-bet in practice, but in live poker, I feel like it's going to work okay. The opener makes it 300, and I think there must be a caller somewhere in the middle here for him to go this size, or be allowed to go this size rather. I call, and the other player must call as well, because we go 3 ways to a flop of queen, jack, 9. Checks around, the turn is an ace of clubs, and I just can't really compete against a bet of 150. I get out of the way and fold. Now, this was a really crazy session, and I didn't end up taking notes on every hand. I certainly didn't get footage on every hand. So at this point, I've actually chipped back up, and I have 7K in my stack, if you can believe it. This one I don't have footage on, but there's a blind raise to $20. I flat with 10, 10, 5, 5 with a single suit in middle position. There's a raise to 85 and 2 calls. I call, closing the action, and I flop quads. Yep, you heard me right. I flop quads. Top quads at that. 10, 10, 7, 2-tone. It checks to the button, who bets $150, and somehow everybody calls. The turn is a jack of diamonds, and it checks through. The river is a 7 offsuit, and it checks to me. It's really hard with quads to really think that we're getting paid by much here. Maybe a slow played pocket 7s, maybe somebody backs into pocket jacks, who knows. But it checks to me, and I just decide to pot it for $950. I figure if anybody ever has a boat here, they're probably not folding. An early position, who is the rock, calls all in for about $800. He does in fact have one of these weird boats with jack 7. Not exactly sure how he even managed to overcall the flop, seeing as there were callers in front of him and he really only had second pair. Maybe he had a flush draw too that I just missed, but even so, it can't have been a good one. Now with 8K in the stack, king, king, queen, 9 in my hand, we play a 4-way flop where I'm not perfectly sure of the action. The flop is 7 deuce deuce rainbow. Eugene makes it 100 and the whale calls. The turn is a queen, and Eugene now bets 400. I'm not super pleased with this spot, but when the whale calls and I have a few outs to some pretty disguised and pretty nutted hands, I decide to call as well. The river gives me one of those cards on a king. Eugene checks, the weaker player also checks, and I decide to make a river value bet of 1.2K, and the weaker player calls. Obviously, when he just calls, my hand is good, and it's nice to book this win. I probably played several more hands after this and managed to chip up even more, in for 1K and out for $10,520. Played for about 6.5 hours, wrapping up the session about 6:30 in the morning, which I usually hate doing, but when your friends are in town, you don't say no to PLO. In for 1K at like midnight, 12:40, out for $10,522. Unreal. Not big into morning parking garage sessions, but my God, it's nice to come out and have the big win. A lot of times these late night games, they end and I'm in the red. Today, we're in the black. Chalk it up as a win. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this coming soon. Remember, I'm Matt Vaughan. Don't get in an uproar about it. And always remember, just triple. Although you guys know I am on a pretty significant backlog for recording and publishing content, I do plan to work on some WSOP vlogs soon. I'm just not sure what that publishing order is going to look like. So keep your eyes peeled, subscribe if you haven't, and turn on that notification bell so you know the next time I upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video soon.